Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into some random NFL blowouts. The goal in this video is for me to find some more obscure, unknown blowouts within the NFL in the last, I would say, decade or so. Now, we obviously all saw the Thursday night blowout game between the Chargers and the Raiders. It ended up being 63-21, and that's kind of the gist of this video. It's just massive blowouts, and hopefully some of these you don't remember because I had to look back and find them. I have done a type of video like this, or at least this style, with college football videos, but we're going to begin going back to 2012. This is one of the more memorable ones. This is the height of the Legion of Boom. The Seahawks beat the Cardinals 58-0. The Cardinals, this was later into the season, they fall to 4-9. John Skelton, 11 of 22, 74 yards and 4 interceptions. Is that Andre Roberts going 3 for 36? Marshawn Lynch, 11 carries, 128 yards and 3 touchdowns. He only had 11 carries. Russell Wilson only attempted 13 passes in this game. But yeah, that Seattle defense, I don't think we'll ever see a defense quite like that again. That was ridiculous. Obviously, it helps when you're facing John Skelton, but still, 58-0. That's a college score. That's what you see between an FBS and an FCS team. That happened in 2012. Here's a game that happened in 2011. It's the biggest blowout, or one of the biggest blowouts in Sunday night history. The Indianapolis Colts at this point 0-7, taking on the Saints with Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, Colston, the whole gang, Jimmy Graham, 60 burger, 62-7. I'm guessing what happened with a game like this, obviously the schedules come out way before the season, and they thought Peyton Manning was going to play. The Colts, Peyton Manning completely takes the year off, goes to the Broncos. The Colts tank this year, get the number 1 overall pick, draft Andrew Luck. So I'm guessing they thought Peyton Manning was going to be playing in this game against Drew Brees when they scheduled it. Obviously, this was one of the first times a team actually deployed a tank strategy. The Colts, they knew Andrew Luck was in the draft. He was an absolute super prospect, and they just lost all their games. And Peyton Manning, with the injury, was going to take the year to recover, move on. And they end up getting another franchise QB in Andrew Luck, but this is kind of a funny game, 62-7. That Saints team, those Saints offenses were just crazy. And towards the end of Drew Brees' tenure, the Saints and the Steelers were very similar. They always had great offenses and terrible defenses. Now, obviously, both of the teams are different, with Brees and Big Ben both retired, but it always seemed like both the Saints and the Steelers would always score a ton of points, but they also would have bad defenses, like in the mid-2010s, I want to say. Moving on to the next one, this is a really random one. This is just a random Andy Dalton 5 passing touchdowns game. It was a weird middle-of-the-season 4 o'clock start in Cincinnati. Jets versus the Bengals. The Bengals were a little bit, they were the better team for sure, sitting at 6-2, but 49-9. What a weird score. Geno Smith at this time was starting for the Jets and really considered a bust. Marvin Jones Jr., all he used to do was catch touchdowns. Wow. He had 4 touchdowns, 122 yards. Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. Oh my goodness. I remember him. 49, just a random game in like 2016 that I saw. That's another blowout. This game going back to 2012. It is Green Bay and Tennessee, a random AFC NFC game with the Titans visiting Lambeau. 55-7. Aaron Rodgers goes for 342 and 3 touchdowns. You did have James Jones go for 100 yards and a touchdown. Kenny Britt scored a touchdown for Tennessee, and Jake Locker, he's like a rookie at this point. He was a dual threat. I do remember him being a dual threat. He also led them in yards with 32 rushing yards as well as passing yards, but he was only 13 of 30. Just a complete blowout game. That was one of the rare times that Green Bay would appear on CBS because they were facing an AFC team at home. That's how the TV rights used to work. Now they're a little bit different, but either way, just kind of a random game. You can see all the sun there at Lambeau, cold weather day. The next one, another random one. It is the San Francisco 49ers with Alex Smith and Jim Harbaugh winning 45-3 at Candlestick over a bad Buffalo Bills team with Ryan Fitzpatrick. These Jim Harbaugh teams at Candlestick with the sun beating down and the 4 o'clock starts, they always used to be so boring. Like it was the same thing every week with San Francisco. It always seemed like it was a low-scoring game and they would always win. Now, this is a game where they actually had 600 yards of total offense against Buffalo, but still, it just that Candlestick stadium was just an amazing home field advantage for San Francisco for sure. And they blow out Buffalo. They scored 21 fourth quarter points. It's like, I don't remember this game being 45-3. I mean, I don't even remember a lot of these games existing, but it's probably because they scored a bunch of garbage time points. They win that one. This next one, it's a divisional matchup. It is the Cardinals winning 44-6 over the Rams. This is when the Rams were in that transition period where they moved into the dilapidated Coliseum. The LA Coliseum did get a big-time renovation for USC. That happened like 3 or 4 years ago, but when the Rams moved back to LA, they had to play at the Coliseum as SoFi was getting built, and the Coliseum before the renovation was just a complete dump. Jared Goff was starting. It was like his first year. This was the last game of the season, week number 17. Todd Gurley goes for 14 carries, 40 yards. Carson Palmer, I remember when Carson Palmer had an MVP type year. But yeah, the Cardinals won this game 44-6. It wasn't even like the Cardinals were that good this year. They were 7-8-1. So they did have a tie, but there was that game. And then there's this game. This was Deshaun Watson's rookie year, his first real breakout game. 57-14 early in the season. Marcus Mariota, I have to say, not a terrible fantasy day. Not horrible. I mean, you'll take the 2 rushing touchdowns. You really will. The 2 interceptions, it's tough. Delaney Walker, the tight end. DeAndre Hopkins. Lamar Miller on the Houston Texans. Yeah, but that was a huge breakout game for Deshaun Watson when he was a rookie. They almost drop a 60-burger at home against Tennessee early in the season, like early October. There's another Saints blowout win on the road at Buffalo. I don't even remember this game existing, but this was relatively recently because Sean McDermott is on the sidelines. Nathan Peterman started this game for Buffalo, 7 of 10, 79 yards, 1 touchdown, not terrible. LaShawn McCoy, remember LaShawn McCoy randomly on Buffalo? And then Kelvin Benjamin as well. But yeah, the Saints easily win this game 47-10, traveling. Pretty impressive cold weather environment. They end up winning that one. This next one, this was week 1 of 2019. This would have been the start of Lamar Jackson's MVP year. 17 of 25 touchdowns, 3 incompletions, 59 points in week 1. That was the highest scoring output throughout the entire 2019 season, was scored in week 1 by the Ravens on the road in Miami. And this was one of those Miami teams. It seemed like for a while Miami just kind of, stammered around 500, 6 or 7 wins. This was another year for them. They had Ryan Fitzpatrick as their starting quarterback week 1. But yeah, the Ravens destroyed them in 2019 to start the season. The next blowout, it is the former Oakland Raiders shockingly getting a blowout home win against the Jets early in the season. Was this Derek Carr's MVP year? There was a year where Derek Carr with the Oakland Raiders went 12-4, and people thought he was going to win MVP. But yeah, here it is. Michael Crabtree goes for 3 touchdowns in this game. You've got the infield. Yeah, there's the Coliseum. You got to love the multi-purposeness of it. But Matt Forte on the Jets, very sad. Matt Forte was a beast when he was on Chicago, but he did become washed a little bit. Josh McCown, starting quarterback of the Jets that game, 45-20 blowout victory. And then here's this one. This one was also kind of relatively recently because this was Jimmy G on San Francisco when San Francisco started the season 7-0. Tevin Coleman. Oh my, the Indiana product. Wow. He goes for 3 touchdowns, 105 yards. San Francisco dropped a 50-burger on Carolina. Carolina had Christian McCaffrey. It's like Inception. Carolina also had Curtis Samuel at this time. Kyle Allen was their starting quarterback. 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. But San Francisco just blew out Carolina in that game. Just another random afternoon game there on the West Coast. But either way, guys, those are just some fun random blowouts over the last decade or so. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.